Psychology 3. Imagery. Imagery can be defined as the polysensual and emotional recreation of an experience that takes place in the mind. The term polysensual refers to as many senses being used as possible, these being kinesthetic, visual, tactile, auditory, or olfactory. These senses all contribute to an effective phase of imagery and allows the athlete to interact with their imagery to make it as realistic as possible for them. There are two types of imagery. These are internal and external, and there is a big difference between these two techniques as they both have different visual representations. The internal imagery will include an athlete imagining themselves doing the specific thing, for example, the real feelings of doing a technique in their head. This can include an athlete imagining themselves scoring a penalty before it has happened. This will allow them to come to terms with the shot and allow them to see what they are going to do and feel the effects of it being successful. This will positively impact their performance as they will be able to feel the reward of scoring the penalty and want to score the penalty and imagine the crowd cheering and the team congratulating them. This will motivate them to want to score the penalty and increase their performance as they know the positive effects and have been able to imagine themselves shooting in a specific area of the goal. However, external imagery is where the athlete watches themselves carrying out the specific activity. This can be described as an actor watching themselves in a movie. For example, a goalkeeper watching themselves make a save from a penalty. The athlete will be able to picture themselves diving into the top right corner and stopping the shot. This will benefit them as they will have confidence and hope that they will save the actual penalty. Seeing this will allow the athlete to see positive outcomes of saving the shot. They will have more effort and higher belief that they will save the shot. This again will benefit their performance as they will be more confident to strive towards saving the penalty as they know they are capable of doing it. There are many uses of imagery that can benefit a performer. These are relaxation, controlling emotions, concentration, and coping with pressure. Imagery helps an athlete with relaxation as it allows them to escape the specific situation they are in and go to a calm, more relaxing environment. This will help an athlete become relaxed as if they are in high-pressure sports such as darts and have a high arousal, imagery can massively calm them down and make them more relaxed. During darts, the athlete will need to have a calm presence and slower heart rate. This can be benefited by imagery. For example, an athlete imagine themselves near a beach. This will allow them to escape from their present state and reduce their stress and allow them to relax. Imagining themselves at the beach will reduce their breathing rate and heart rate as the situation will be less overwhelming and much calmer. This therefore will benefit their performance as they will be less aroused and can therefore perform short motor movements, much more controlled and slower, so that the shot is precise and accurate. Controlling emotions is another reason why athletes may use imagery. An athlete may imagine themselves in a space where they feel safe and calm to reduce their emotions. During large events such as the Olympics, athletes may feel a range of emotions due to the importance of the event. During this time, they may feel anxious and stressed, which can therefore decrease their performance. For example, a 10,000-meter runner will need to have controlled breathing to ensure they are efficient through their whole race. Therefore, imagery can be used to allow them to feel calm and safe. For example, an athlete may imagine themselves in their home where they feel most calm. This will allow them to reduce their breathing rate and heart rate so they can perform efficiently during the 10,000-meter. Concentration is another reason to use imagery. Concentration is crucial in most sports to ensure they are at their peak performance. For example, an athlete may be taking a penalty in rugby that if they score will win them the title. This will put great pressure and stress onto the athlete and may take their core focus away from scoring the penalty. This is where imagery may help the athlete to bring their focus and concentration back into the penalty kick. For example, an athlete may see themselves by the ocean. This can calm them down and bring them back to their key focus in their mind. Seeing a relaxing setting will reduce their heart rate and breathing rate, which in turn reduces their emotions. Emotions will be heightened in important circumstances, therefore an athlete will need to control them so that they don't reduce their physical ability. The athlete will be able to control their movements much easier and focus back on their main aspect, which is kicking the ball over the posts. Coping with pressure is a key factor of why imagery is used. For example, in top events such as Champions League final, an athlete will have more pressure on them to succeed. In important circumstances such as scoring the winning penalty, an athlete will have many different physical effects happening. For example, an increased breathing rate and heart rate will mean the athlete will have more pressure and in turn will wind themselves up more and more. The athlete may see themselves in a calming environment such as next to a waterfall. The calming surrounding will bring the athlete back to reality and allow them to just focus on the penalty and nothing around them. In pressuring environments, the athlete will find it difficult to focus on their penalty as there are so many other feelings inside their head. Therefore, being in a different place psychologically will mean they can reduce their emotions such as pressure. Mental rehearsal. Mental rehearsal is the preparation and practice an athlete will put themselves through to ultimately improve their performance levels. Mental rehearsal is used by athletes to practice their specific techniques that they want to succeed in. For example, an athlete practicing throwing the javelin into the field so they can get the correct technique and routine before the actual throw. This type of mental rehearsal can be done during, before, or instead of physical activity. Mental rehearsal can prepare an athlete psychologically and give them the extra practice before they carry out the performance. Many athletes will use this technique to go through their specific routine of carrying out the skill. There are many uses of mental rehearsal. These are skill practice and rehearsal, in-competition practice, replaying performance, and performance routines. Skill practice and rehearsal can be developed by the use of mental rehearsal. Practicing the skill over and over again will familiarize the athlete with the exact movements they need to ensure they succeed in the skill. For example, an athlete mentally rehearsing themselves throwing a dart. The continuous practice in the mind will increase the neuromuscular patterns in the body, and therefore make the athlete more familiar with the movements. This means they will know exactly what to do when it comes to performing the actual throw. Visualizing and practicing the throw will mean the brain will come to terms with the exact movements needed and the process in order to throw a perfect shot. If the athlete did not do this, it could cause them to throw the dart in the wrong technique and therefore decrease their performance. During the mental rehearsal, it may be that the athlete practices both good techniques of throwing the dart and bad ones. This will ensure that the athlete can differentiate the two. Doing this will mean the athlete can decide which technique of throw they want to practice, as they will visualize which one has the best outcome and accuracy. This will benefit their performance as they have tested a range of throws and found the most successful and suitable one for them, increasing their performance levels as they have found the best technique. Another use of mental rehearsal is in-competition practice. In-competition practice is crucial for an athlete as it allows them to practice but does not use up any energy. It is important that the athlete retains all the energy for the actual performance. Therefore, mental rehearsal will fully use the brain while the athlete still benefits from the process. This type of practice allows the athlete to visualize the skill and how they will carry out the specific techniques so that they will perform to the best of their ability. It is important for the athlete to practice their skills so close to the event times that the brain has a fresh visualization of what they need to do. For example, a gymnast mentally rehearsing her floor dance. They will go through all aspects of the dance and therefore notice any parts that they aren't sure on or perfect their technique as they mentally go through the routine. This ensures they are fully focused on what they are doing and not thinking about other things. Mentally rehearsing the routine will mean it is fresh in the brain and the first thing the brain remembers before the performance. This will benefit the gymnast as they will have a clear plan of their routine and will be able to fix any parts that they wish to. This will fully prepare them and provide them with a clear plan of how they will carry out the performance successfully. Replaying performance is one of the main uses of mental rehearsal. An athlete may be very nervous before their event due to the past mistakes they have made, which has decreased their performance levels. An athlete will be able to visualize their past mistakes and rehearse how they will overcome them and what they would do differently to ensure the same mistake doesn't happen again. This will reduce the athlete's anxiety levels as they will be able to imagine a new scenario where they don't make the same mistake and practice the new skill they have put in place to overcome their past mistake. For example, a boxer mentally rehearsing their last fight where they didn't duck a punch which lost them the round. They will be able to imagine the scenario and change the events so they do duck. This will allow them to practice for their performance as they will have practiced how they will overcome the mistake. This will increase their confidence and knowledge and that of their upcoming performance. This type of mental rehearsal will also allow the athlete to imagine a range of different outcomes that could affect their performance. In boxing, there is a range of different punches, and therefore replaying the performance will ensure they have a skill to avoid each range of different punches. This will therefore benefit the performer as they have a visualization of what they would do for a range of different outcomes. Many athletes will have performance routines in where they have certain plans before they perform the actual skill. This is usually seen in athletes before they take a free kick or penalty. They will most likely have a routine process on how they will perform the skill and see if it's successful. This type of mental rehearsal will allow the athlete to see the outcome of their shot on goal and see the positive outcomes afterwards, which will boost their confidence. An athlete may take 5 steps before they make contact with the ball as their routine during the performance routines via mental rehearsal. An athlete will be able to see themselves doing this and prepare for the actual penalty. Doing this allows the athlete to go through normal routines without actually touching the ball. This will familiarize them with the movements they are going to make. This will benefit their performance as they will have prepared themselves and increase their confidence by seeing a positive outcome of their shot, which will allow them to play to the best of their ability. Increasing arousal. The techniques of increasing arousal are used to make an athlete be at their optimal level of arousal, which in turn will be very beneficial to their performance. An athlete who is either aroused or under-aroused will not be able to perform at their optimum level. An athlete who is nervous and not pumped up for their match may use these techniques to fully prepare themselves for their performance. There are a range of techniques used for this. These are music, acting energized, energizing imagery, and affirmations. Music is a key factor of increasing an athlete's arousal and energy levels. Music is used by a variety of athletes to ensure they are pumped and ready for the match. Music can often be listened to in the changing rooms of a football team as they will get ready for the match and increase their arousal levels depending on the music listened to. An athlete may also have a specific playlist that gets them in the mood for exercise. For example, an upbeat playlist with rhythm will increase an athlete's attitude towards the sport and increase their arousal levels by increasing their heart rate. This type of music can also take an athlete's mind off the match and put them into the correct headspace, which reduces nerves and anxiety levels. This will distract them from their feelings and increase their arousal towards the match, and they will be pumped up. Certain music can also increase an athlete's heart rate, as it can be very energizing and upbeat. This in turn increases their arousal as their body is flowing more blood around the body. Although music is very beneficial for some athletes, it can also have the opposite effect on others. If an athlete is taking a run, they may have a very upbeat song during the first stages of their run. This can therefore decrease their arousal later on during the run. This is because they have exerted large effort and energy levels during the initial stages of the run, and therefore have a very small amount left during the middle and end stages. This will decrease their arousal later on as they will not be able to keep up the same pace or energy levels. Some athletes may also rely on music too much. For some athletes, music may be the only thing that gets them hyped up and aroused. Therefore, if they do not have music available, they will not be able to reach the same levels of arousal. This will decrease their performance as they will not be able to go through their routine and will affect their mindset before or during the performance. This also means they will not be able to reach their optimum arousal, which in turn means they cannot reach their best ability. Acting energized. Acting energized is another technique used to increase an athlete's arousal levels. Acting energized will involve short, powerful movements that pumps up an athlete. For example, a chest bump before a rugby match. This short movement allows a range of emotions to leave the body through the short, sharp contraction. This type of arousal gets a flow of emotions going around the body and therefore increases the athlete's arousal. This is beneficial for an athlete as it allows them to exert any negative or anxious feelings they may have and turn it into a positive explosive movement that in turn increases their arousal. This technique also increases an athlete's heart rate and breathing rate. This gets them physically ready for performing. When the athlete's heart rate increases, it means more blood is being pumped to the working muscles and therefore allowing the athlete to work at a higher level. However, this technique can also lead to over-arousal. Pumping yourself up loads can lead you to becoming over-aroused. When these movements are performed, it sends a large release of emotions on your body, which can lead to you becoming overexcited or aggressive. This can therefore lead to the athlete losing focus on the game and reducing their ability. This will mean they cannot control their emotions and will lead them to becoming very angry very quickly. For example, if they receive a high tackle in rugby, they may react more abruptly and aggressively than if they were at their peak arousal. Energizing imagery. Energizing imagery is used to psych up an athlete. This is where the athlete uses imagery to get themselves pumped up and aroused, ready for performances. For example, a rugby player imagining themselves putting in a huge tackle against the opposition and succeeding. This will increase their arousal as they will see themselves putting in a good performance and a huge tackle, which will make them excited and aroused to do it again. Rugby players will get a thrill and excitement from putting in good tackles. Therefore, the athletes seeing themselves do it beforehand will ensure they are at the right mindset and mental state. Energizing imagery also increases an athlete's heart rate, which in turn increases their blood flow towards their working muscles. This will benefit the performer as it means their muscles will have more strength and can therefore be more powerful in tackles. Although this type of arousal increase can benefit the performer, it can also take their focus away from the present match they are performing in. For example, if the winger begins to imagine themselves running past a previous competitor, they may begin to use those skills against their new competitor. However, due to the change of opponent, the same skills will not work and therefore may cause them to lose possession or get tackled.